Welcome back to the Automation Podcast. My name is Shawn from Insights in Automation. And this week on the show, since I didn't have a new episode, I want to tell you about what's new and coming, what I've been working on, the vendors I've been talking to, and then some coming changes coming to the show. Now, I did rush something out last night, but after reviewing it, I felt like I was rambling a bit. So I put together some more notes. I really wanted to share with you more of the vendors I'm working with, and then get into some of the details about the changes coming without maybe going on so long. So if you do want to see the original episode that I released last night, I'll add it to the end of this, but I hopefully will be more concise in this version of episode 205. And so I want to start with the fact that, when I moved into these new offices, I really was so busy that I paused reaching out to vendors for a while. And even though I started back up in March, it still has been led to a couple of weeks without episodes, right? And so I wanted to tell you who I've been working with since March to get them on the show. And sometimes I'm talking to marketing people, sometimes I'm talking to product managers, but I've been talking to folks from Siemens, Rockwell, Schneider, Emerson, Mitsubishi, Beckhoff, ISA, Copia, SICK, RTA, Cortigo, Flexiv, Micro PSI, Industrial Shields, Pessler, AMCI, Mettler Toledo, and Tatsoft, as well as some subject matter experts. So I've spent a lot of time trying to get people on the show, and I want you to know that I hope all these come to fruition. I think some of these actually are going to come. Well, I can tell you, we recorded the AMCI one on Tuesday, so hopefully we can release that this coming week, and we got a lot of these already scheduled in the coming week. So I'm excited about all of these. And the other thing I did too is starting this week, I started to reach out to the vendors after the morning show. So in the morning, I get up early, I spend about an hour and a half reviewing all the news. And I've now been tacking on to the end of that, reaching out to the top products, which I think came out that day. And that which led to my conversation with SICK. Is, let's get you on the show. This is a great product. We got to tell people about it. So my goal is that I'm going to continue to be able to bring you new episodes every week. It may not be every week, we'll talk about that in a minute, but, maybe it's 50 times a year or 45 times a year. But I really do think the future is bright for the show. And I want to thank you. I know we have 1,000+ regular listeners every week. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. You're one of the reasons I keep doing this, because you know what? If it was just me, a lot of time goes into this. It can take 4 to 8 hours to put this show together every week. And without any listeners, why would I do that, right? Even though I do love talking to the vendors and learning new things, right? So thank you to all our regular listeners and viewers. Really appreciate you guys tuning in each week. Now, having said that, as you guys know, last year we wrapped up the 10-year anniversary of the Automation blog. This year is the 10-year anniversary of the Automation School. And when I started this business back in 2013, and just by the way, I am the only employee here. It's me, Insights in Automation. I may say we or us. I'm talking about the company, which is a company of one person. So when I started this back in 2013, one of the thought process was on the media side that we would generate revenue as the audience grew, and eventually it would be self-sustaining, right? It would be a sustainable media division inside of Insights in Automation, and hopefully we would hire people over time, right? What I've learned from looking at, recently I looked at all the data from the last 10 years, and what I found is there is no ad revenue of really any amount, right? So just to give you an idea, when we get 10,000 views, I'm not talking impressions, we get millions of impressions, but when an episode gets 10,000 views, we make $16. And most of our episodes, we get 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 is a good episode, right? That's 5,000 controls engineers or automation engineers or high-end electricians and technicians sitting through in half an hour or more of product updates, right? And that means there's a lot of you folks out there that are really interested in keeping up your skills. And that's huge. I've never been in a room except for maybe the general session, the opening session for an automation fair or some other event. You don't get that many people in a single room to talk about a product. So I think it's great, but it's nothing compared to a new smartphone or new electronics, right? They get hundreds of millions of views, right? And so $16 for 4 to 8 hours worth of work, that's not sustainable. That's just not sustainable. And I think you guys agree with me on that. And so that's what the data is telling us. So with that in mind, we have to pivot now in our second decade. We have to pivot away from advertising. It doesn't work for us. And so one of the things we did find, though, over the last few years is that when vendors appreciate having their episodes be ad-free, when they sponsor the show, when they underwrite our costs, right, with, $400 to $500 sponsorship, right, we can actually produce the episode without losing money, and there's no ads on it, right? No ads forever. And they really appreciate that. And so that has been one of the really positive things of the show that has really kept it going and kept it out of the air is the sponsorships from the vendors. $4.99, almost any product manager has that in his budget for a marketing expense. And for us, it makes us break even. We're not making a profit, but we break even on that episode. We're not losing money anymore. So, and honestly, after 10 years, my investment fund, my savings account, it's empty. I have no more funds to invest in a product or in a show that is negative revenue, right? It just doesn't make any sense. It's not sustainable. So with that in mind, some of the changes we're going to be making here is that for the sponsored episodes, they're going to be the same, right? You're going to see them. They're going to be professionally edited. They're going to be released on audio. They're going to be released on video, and it's going to be ad-free. So no changes there. However, what do we do with the people who don't have that budget, or, maybe they've never been on a podcast, but we want to know about their products? We've had some of the biggest vendors in the world have never sponsored a single episode. We still want to hear from them, right? We still want to have them on the show, but how do we justify that with not losing money? And so here's where we're going to go with that. So first of all, when an unsponsored guest wants to come on, we're still going to have them on. If we think it's something you're interested in, we're still going to have them on. But we're going to do a couple changes. First of all, I'm not going to pay to have the episode professionally edited, or I'm not going to spend 2 hours of myself editing a show that doesn't generate us revenue. We know there's no ad revenue, and so we're just not going to do that. So they're going to be a bit rougher. And some of these vendors, they're not the best speakers in the world, just like I'm not. And so we're not going to be cutting out their ums and their ahs and their long pauses. There's just no funds to do that with a free episode. So you have to be prepared for that. When you hear a unsponsored episode, you'll hear my ads in them. Like previously, I like to do it at 5, 15 and 25 minutes is where I usually jump in and talk about my courses. So they'll have ads in them because they're unsponsored, but also they're not going to be polished and edited. There's no revenue to do that when they're unsponsored. The second thing we're going to do is, and this comes from looking at some of our big hits that were unsponsored. For instance, we took one vendor on. It took us 8 hours. It took me 8 hours to produce this entire show. I think it was a great show. The vendor paid nothing. They came on, they gave us a half an hour of their time. They got 30,000 views, not impressions. We got millions of impressions. These are actual views. 30,000 of you watched this show over the years. We made $50, right? So in essence, I lost $400 to $500 on that episode, but the vendor, he got in front of 30,000 people. And so that's a lose-win, and you can't have a sustainable company with lose-wins, right? So what I'm going to do with the video editions of these unsponsored shows, those are going to go behind the membership wall, okay? So it's $250 a week, right? If you really like the show, if you really like the videos, then $250 a week to get the morning show every morning and the video of the unsponsored automation podcast, maybe that's worth it to you. I don't know. But we're not going to put vendors in front of tens of thousands of people for free and lose money in the process of doing that. So I wanted to throw that out. That is a change. Now, I know some of you do listen on YouTube. And when you're listening on YouTube, you're doing that for free. So in those cases, if you can't do the membership, you'll want to switch over to your phone app for podcasting. We're on Apple, we're on Google, we're on Spotify. All of those work really well. And you still can get it for free. Every single episode for free that way. So with that, those are the changes. I really felt like yesterday when I did this ad hoc, it was a lot longer and I kind of rambled a little bit. So I wanted to kind of boil that down for you and make a shorter episode. Again, I'm still going to include the longer episode at the end of this. So if you're like, you want to know more of the ins and outs and more of my just random thoughts about this, you can. But I do think that I covered more of the vendors we're going to be having on soon. And I think I also covered in a more concise way why we're making changes for the vendors who come on the free appearances and how we're going to handle those appearances by putting ads in the audio edition and making the video edition a member only, a subscriber only, kind of like if you get interviewed with the newspaper, that interview may not show up on their free website. You may have to buy the paper to get that interview. That's the same kind of thing we're doing there. So with that, I hope that makes a lot of sense. And I want to thank you all again for watching my shows, watching the podcasts and the videos and listening to them, and going to the blog and reading the articles. You know, we got all those new guides up now. And really appreciate you all. And if you want to get in contact with me, if you get some feedback or you just want to say hi, you can do so using the feedback link, the contact link over at theautomationblog.com. And with that, I want to wish you a happy and healthy day. And until next time, my friends, peace. Welcome back to the Automation Podcast. My name is Shawn Tierney with Insights in Automation. And in this episode, well, we didn't have an episode for this week. So I'm going to tell you what's going on behind the scenes, give you a preview of what's coming up, and then we'll talk about some of the changes that are coming to the show. So first of all, I am recording this around showtime here, 2:30, 3 o'clock on Wednesday. And try as I might, we had another week where I wasn't going to be able to release a show. And so I thought, well, instead of leaving everybody hanging, hey, where's the Automation Podcast? We've had 100 episodes straight. I wanted to come on here and create a little show for you guys, let you know what's going on. So first off, let me go ahead and tell you about what's going on. So I have been, recently, we talked about this in episode 200, that recently we moved into a new office and set up 4 different rooms for training and for studios and for shows and hands-on. And man, that really just took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. But, we're 4 months in. Everything's pretty settled here. We still want to do a lot. But, you only can do so much, right? And so we're pretty much settled in. And I've gotten back into the routine of doing the morning show. And I've added to that routine reaching out to vendors, and it's really working well. So I got 3 emails in the last week from people who I reached out to that I covered on the morning show about their new products. And so I'm really excited about that. So if we take a look at some of the people who I've met with already and talked to about coming on the show, or already recorded an episode for, but it wasn't ready to release for today. I mean, we have just a ton of great guests coming on from all your favorite vendors, Rockwell and Siemens and Emerson and Schneider and AMCI. And other vendors, well-known vendors, and some new vendors, right? Some vendors you may not know about, right? And we're going to be covering topics. Of course, we'll continue to cover PLCs and HMIs and SCADA, right? But we're also going to be covering motion control. We're going to be covering vision. We're going to be covering AI and other systems. And I'm excited. I don't want to go too far because we've only recorded one of these so far, but we have dates in the calendar for most of these. We actually had one scheduled with Shiner that we had to reschedule because we found that the topic was the same. That's something we covered last year. So in any case, and of course the folks at Siemens, the last 2 episodes were with Siemens, and they've been great. You can see I got some Siemens hardware here that I'm planning on going through. I still have to sit down with them on IO Link, but we've met with Rockwell, a couple different people at Rockwell. I'm very excited about those episodes. We're reaching out to more people there, and all of the vendors. We continued out, like we sat down with Emerson, talked about getting them on. I thought it was on the process side, actually on the factory automation side, which is very cool. Had a great show with AMCI yesterday, and I've also met with some experts in the field to talk about projects they worked on. I met with Steve Mustard to talk about, you remember him from the ISA episodes, to talk about digital twins. We had a great conversation. We're going to schedule to record that. We're also going to have a session with him talking about things like AI, IoT, and other things. So those should be, I just enjoy talking to Steve. So those should be good episodes. We had a great conversation. We're kind of like after the fact, maybe we should have recorded this. But in any case, and other industry experts like that, we're going to be having on the show. So we're still doing a lot of work behind the scenes, but, well, let me get into the next section of the show. I want to talk to you about the first 10 years, okay? So I launched the Automation Blog, the Automation Podcast, the Automation Show in Minute, and all of that back in 2013. You guys know that. We finished up our 10-year anniversary on the blog last year. This year is the 10-year anniversary of the school. And so after 10 years, I thought, okay, let's take a look at the overall stats for everything we've done in 10 years, right? So I went through a deep dive, and I'm going to just focus right now on the Automation Podcast. So what I've learned from looking at all these stats is, first of all, there's like 1,000 plus of you guys out there, and girls, who are watching almost every single show. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a subscriber to the Automation Podcast. I really appreciate that. If we had no listeners or viewers, I would just stop doing the show. Why would I do it if nobody's out there wants to hear about it? I mean, don't get me wrong. I really, really enjoy these shows because you guys know me. I'm like really passionate about technology. But if nobody was listening, I would stop doing it. So that really made me feel great. I think, I really think we're like the number one automation product and technology show. I keep looking for other people and nobody comes close. So you guys are just the best out there. Thank you for tuning in. Now, having said that, what I also learned was that the advertising, okay, so when I started this in 2013, I said, you build an audience, the ad revenue will grow, and then you'll be able to keep doing what you're doing based on ad revenue. So what I learned is, and it could have went either way. I didn't know when I started. I knew this was a possibility. But what I've learned over the last 10 years is there is no advertising revenue. Okay, so just to give you an idea, based on the numbers, this is from the last couple of years. When we get 10,000 people who view or watch or listen to an episode of the Automation Podcast, we make $16. And not every episode gets 10,000 views or listens, right? We are in what I call a super niche. There is not hundreds of millions of people who want to know about the next greatest PLC. There should be, but it's not like new smartphones, right? So there's just not enough people out there. And coupled with that, a lot of the vendors don't even advertise. If you look at YouTube and look at people like myself on YouTube, very, very few vendors are advertising out there on this content, right? And so, when you put in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a lot of these episodes take 8 hours, soup to nuts, to put together. You can't bring home $16 or $10 or $8. It's not sustainable, right? And I want this company to be sustainable. I want it to last long after I'm gone. The goal here is to really bring you guys quality information. I know nobody's doing it out there, but this is what we need for the future. We need our vendors. They don't have to show up to our plant or do a one-on-one. I mean, there's so many things we're interested in. We need to have all these episodes canned and on the net and available for when we need them. And that's why I see a lot of people going back and looking at older episodes like on Aussie or EtherCAT or Profinet or IO-Link because, they don't need it until they need it, right? And so in any case, so we realized, hey, you know what? After 10 years, we can say we cannot make money with ads. And so we had to take a look at that. And when I say we, I mean me. I'm the only employee at Insights and Automation. I did hire my son to come in for a little while and help with the transition of the office and do some Arduino stuff, but it's just me. I'm the only one here. So, I at some point you have to say, you got to stop doing what doesn't work, right? And so we thought about it. But on the flip side, though, we do have a lot of vendors, and you guys have seen it with all the commercial-free episodes we've done. We have a lot of vendors who are like, you know what? I will spend $400 or $500 to get in front of 1,000 automation engineers. That is worth every penny. Matter of fact, if I could get in front of 1,000 potential customers for the automation school, I would spend $500 every day of the week. I'm that confident in my product. And, you think about it. You guys, you sit there, you listen to this spiel for half an hour. It's probably worth a nickel to the vendor for you to do that, right? And so this is not to make a profit. We don't make a profit when we sponsor them. We're just covering our costs, right? We want to keep the show going. And so we've had a lot of vendors who sponsored us over the years. I think you guys know who they are. And, but there's still probably more vendors out there who have never even been on a podcast. As a matter of fact, you'll see oftentimes when I'm talking about the podcast, I put video in parentheses because a lot of them have never seen Tim Pool or Joe Rogan or what Tucker's doing now. A lot of them don't even know who those people are. They don't know that podcasts are video podcasts these days. I mean, they're great to listen to, but they also are great to watch as well. And so in any case, we're constantly explaining that, hey, it's a video podcast. And, that goes into the rebranding I'm looking at for maybe later this year, depending on finances. But in any case, we have to address those because those people, even though they're not up to speed on the value of sponsoring the show, we still want to have them on, right? They have great products. So in any case, this is what I've decided to do going forward, okay, after looking at all the data. And, for you, if you're listening to the show, right, and if you typically listen to the show, like I know Apple's huge for us. I have iPhones. I have Androids too, but I have iPhones and iPads. And they're huge for us, right? So as the audio audience, they're number one. And then we have Google, we have Spotify and others that come behind that, right? But in any case, if you're listening on one of those audio platforms, you're not going to see a huge difference. Okay, first of all, though, we may not be able to do one every week, right? So my investment fund, my savings account is empty, okay? So I'm not going to, I can't pull away from paying engagements like teaching or like consulting, or like sponsored episodes to do the show, right? If I don't have a sponsor for that week, we may not have it. I'm still trying to do an episode every week, right? But if it comes down to paying the bills or doing an episode, the bills are going to come first. So I think you guys all understand that. And I'm not saying anything that's crazy here. That said, for the audio audience, if we are able to do a show every week, you're going to see very little difference. If the episode is not sponsored, you'll hear me pitch some of my courses, right? So I'll be doing ads in them. The only thing you may notice is that I haven't farmed it out to a professional editor, okay? Sometimes I was editing the courses, sometimes other people were editing them, but it takes a couple hours. If you have a 45-minute podcast, it can take 2 hours to edit that, right? You go through, you back up, you cut, you clip, you fade. So you may see some of the episodes with ads now be a little bit more raw. We're going to still try to use, I'm still going to try to use all the tools I can. There's some new tools in Premiere that's supposed to do some of this for me. But in any case, that's the only difference. If it has ads in it, it's not going to be professionally edited. We're not going to spend 2 hours editing an episode when we may make $16. So that's it for the audio audience, right? So you may not get a show, you may not get 52 shows every year, you may get 50 or 45, and the ones that aren't sponsored may not be polished to what I would like them to be polished to. The other thing is, for the video editions, if you like watching it, then that's where the biggest change is. So if the video edition is sponsored, no change. You're going to have 0 commercials. You're going to have professionally edited, but if it's not sponsored, it's going to go behind the membership wall, okay? So the same $10 a month that gets you my daily automation show, 15 to 30 minutes every morning, every workday, that will also get you the unsponsored video edition of the podcast. And the simple fact is, we had one where a vendor came on. We put them in front of 30,000 people on YouTube, not impressions, actually people who watched it. And we made under $50. And so we don't see there's any value there. That's a win-lose. Win for the vendor. Half an hour, they get 30,000 views. They've never gotten that many views on their channel on any of their videos. And we lost our shirt on that. We probably lost $450 on that one. So in any case, that's why we're doing that. So I hope that makes sense. So here's the key takeaway, right? We're going to continue to try to produce a show every week. May not happen every week. Just financially, we have to focus on, keeping the lights on if we want to keep doing this. But we're going to try. I'm going to try every morning. I'm going to ping vendors. It's been working very well. I'm basically pinging the vendors I cover in the morning show. And so that's working well. So we should have plenty of episodes for you. As far as if it's unsponsored, you'll only get the audio edition. So hopefully that's not a big deal. I know a lot of you guys who are on YouTube. I've had you guys actually tell me, hey, I listen to you on YouTube. So, you may have to switch over to your phone, whatever podcasting app you have on your phone, if you want to get the unsponsored episodes. But in any case, I hope that makes sense. If you have any feedback, any concerns, if you just want to say hi, we have contact links on all the websites. Well, I should say we're really focused on the automationblog.com, right? So we've depreciated automate.news because there was just no advertising to go there. So just go to automationblog.com. You can use the TalkBad feedback contact link, any link you want. I know sometimes people will comment on the podcast itself. I always do not get notified of that. Like there was a problem with our podcast host where they weren't always doing the transcripts and people would say no transcript. We have no control over that. That's the podcasting platform that we use. So in any case, though, if you want to get directly in contact with me, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I know everybody wants to follow these days, but you can connect directly with me if you're in automation, and you can talk to me there too. I have some people saying, Shawn, I have a PLC HMI and VFD. Teach me how to set it all up. And I'm like, boy, would I love to. Yeah, you get some funny ones on LinkedIn. But in any case, so I'm going to wrap this up. Again, my apologies. We didn't have an episode ready today. We should have one next week. I got a couple recordings going on. I already have one in the bag. So we're really hoping to have one out. We're going to still try to do 52 a year, but if we skip a week, you'll know why now. And again, please feel free to reach out to me with any comments, concerns, suggestions, opinions. And with that, I am going to wrap up now. I want to wish you all a very happy and healthy week. And until next time, my friends, peace.